Climate change. Sensible people realise it's real and it's happening right now. Now, I confess I find it hard to take groups like Extinction Rebellion seriously. After all, last week one of their members attempted to glue himself to the road. And as much as I commend the children of the world going out protesting that their government should do more to tackle climate change, I hate to say this, but they need to realise they're also part of the problem. I mean, one of the easiest ways to cut CO2 emissions would be to stop ferrying kids to and from school in massive SUVs and make them fucking walk. On top of that as well, to cut emissions, why not get rid of all the screens there are in classrooms now and go back to a teacher writing things on a blackboard? Can you say blackboard now? I know a few years ago people thought that was racist, but I never understood it. It's a board and it's blackboard. And they were replaced with whiteboard, so what's the difference? Anyway, I recently found out as well that some modern schools have air-conditioned classrooms. Do you know how much pollution that shit creates? Whereas when I first went to school back in the 1980s, my primary school didn't have fucking heating. One last thing on education as well. When I went to high school, I had to get there 5 miles there, 5 miles back on my push bike. So in the course of a week, that's 50 miles. Can you imagine a parent trying to get a child today to cycle 50 miles a week? It'd be on the news. There'd be a government inquiry. The child would be in care. The parent would be fucking executed. But one young person that's in the news a lot is the Swedish activist Greta Thunberg. And she's really divided opinions. Some people see her as an almost messianic figure. Others, very sadly, are mocking her because she's got Asperger's. Me, I think she's very passionate, she's clued in on what she's talking about, and she's bloody frightening as well. Have you seen that photo where she's staring at Donald Trump? It wouldn't have shocked me if thunderbolts had shot out of her eyes. I noted she did put something on Twitter that made Donald Trump look stupid, but that's not really an achievement, is it? It won't match what he does himself. I want to stress I'm not anti-Republican. But I do despair when I look at President Donald Trump and think that is the leader of the free world. Maybe it's not a bad thing that the planet's dying. But on climate change, according to a conspiracy theory I've been reading up on, it's all a hoax, there's nothing to worry about. This theory postulates the idea that the world has actually been getting cooler since the 1930s, but the figures are being manipulated by NASA. Yes, once again, the guys and girls that fire rockets into space are meant to be involved in some global conspiracy. Now, this is being orchestrated and controlled by Barack Obama. This is where it really falls apart for me, because I was learning about global warming, although then it was called the greenhouse effect, back at my aforementioned primary school that had no heating in the 80s. So I failed to see how a 21st century president was controlling the education system in 1980s rural Norfolk. But the reason NASA are manipulating these figures is to make people think the world is getting hotter, and that will lead to global panic. And the reason that NASA want people to panic is so that they go to their doctors to be medicated, because every doctor in the world is in on this conspiracy as well. And they will then give us medication that will make us docile and more likely to obey the government. Now, as far as conspiracy theories go, it's absolute horseshit. But I do quite like it because it goes somewhere. NASA is involved in it, and they're in it for a reason, to create panic, whereas normally NASA are just there because NASA's evil. The popular theory at the moment involving NASA, of course, is flat Earth. But if you ask a flat earther why it is NASA are covering up that the world is flat, it knocks them fucking bandy. They don't know what's going on. No one's asked them to think why NASA is covering up that the world is flat. But if you are a flat earthist yourself, we need your help. Because if what you're saying is true, you can stop global warming almost immediately. Because if the world is flat and Antarctica is actually a wall of ice and we're underneath a giant glass dome, which no one's explained how that has been built. But if that is the case, can you and your flat earth cohorts travel to the wall of ice, go up to the dome, drill a hole in it, because that'll let a bit of the heat out,